Hello everyone, so the new Child's Play 2019 is directed by Lars Klevberg. So the 1988 Child's Play beloved horror gets a retelling that expands from the Milked franchise and gets the retelling it deserves, or does it? 2019 remake is so different between the original, it's like night and day basically. The plot, the characters, them going from a voodoo possessed doll from the original to a AI gone wrong in the new one. Artificial intelligence was actually one of the considerations for the original and their early productions, which I thought was interesting how they used that in this film. Another idea they had for the original was the plot of Andy being the killer, but then him blaming the dolls for the grisly murders. I went into this movie really excited because I'm a really big Child's Play fan as far as the originals go. And honestly, with the whole plot of this film, how we get Chucky as antagonist, I thought it was actually pretty lazy, just because it was so simple, which didn't really do anything for the movie. So in a way, it really didn't affect it too much because it's pretty simple, as I said. And also get the point across, so there's that too. And the Chucky doll is pretty much branded into our minds from seeing him in the last 30 decades of the films he's been in. So it's going to be hard to top that if we make it any different at all. With Coslin Productions, I honestly think that if they given Chucky a sleeker, more smooth look, to where he looked more like acceptable considering their brands and everything, it would have gone along better with the movie and their plot. Another little problem I had with the movie is that the cast wasn't as strong as they are in the original, with Catherine Hicks as the mother and then Chris Harrington as the cop. Catherine Hicks, you can actually totally buy into her being a mother, because she has that affectionate, loving, caring, supportive side to her that you see with her and Andy, because they share good chemistry together. But with Aubrey Plaza and Andy in this film, it doesn't go well. One thing about the original, I really think they should have brought into this film, mainly because it was a big aspect of the original, and it really helped make it intense. Was second way through the second part of the movie, halfway through, you thought, Chris Sarandon, the cop, was already assuming that Chucky, not Chucky, but Andy was the killer, and that really made it pretty intense. But we don't get that in this. We only see the cop basically try to arrest him in a third of the film, like the very last climax scene. So if Mark Hamill is lending his voice for Chucky, it really got a lot of fans on board. It certainly did for me, because I was not sure at first, skeptical. But then he came on board, so I was like, okay, well, fine, yeah, that sounds good to me. Because we all know his work, like as far as the Joker and the Batman animated series, and many other things. So he's really talented and a really good actor as well, not just voice acting, but yeah. The Mark Hamill, as I was expecting his voice to be, I was more wanting something a little bit more psychotic, I guess, with of what we're used to hearing him do, with his crazy laughs and everything. He could have very easily pulled off a Chucky-esque laugh, much like Brad Dourif did, but that wouldn't have fit with the character, with them being artificial intelligence. So it's more subtle and a more soft tone, more like an innocent doll, basically, like he's learning and progressing through TV and his friends, Andy and his friends. So I thought that this is a wise choice to go with, even though he could have brought it more so. But maybe I'll see that in the sequel. So from the trailers, it looked really dark, and that's one of the aspects I was really excited about, considering how far they went in the last installments in the original series. Um, but they still held up the comedy in this quite a bit, which it is actually funny and it goes fine with the story. It doesn't, you know, murder it or anything. But I think it's a good balance between comedy and uh, horror, which I do think like the kills they could have been drawn out a little more, you know, to build the tension with the as far as you know, maybe the character's looking to find where Chucky's at, and it could have been. I don't know. It felt like it could have. The suspense could have been there more than it was. So now we're going into spoiler territory. So watch out, okay? Now with the Buddy Bear, as soon as they introduced that into the film, I figured they were gonna bring him into the film, which I really was hoping that they wouldn't because it looked really even worse than the Chucky doll. And it would just be really corny. And unfortunately, they have done that. Um, and it was corny. And it really wasn't funny either. Like, it didn't service the story or anything for me. Um, but they're not in the film very long. They get probably, you know, a few seconds screen time. Uh, but still, it just reminded me a little too much of Cult, the last installment of the original franchise, with him, you know, taking control over more than just his uh, body, I guess. The final climax between just Andy and Chucky, I felt a little bit more like an action film than it did with a horror. Like in the original, I love what Andy says is the end framing the lights of the match and sets him on fire. Um, and then he gets burnt to a crisp, like a marshmallow that's been cooked too long, whatever. And he's still walking after him. Um, I know it's almost like he was impossible to kill, but in this, it's a little bit uh, more simple, I guess. Um, and the cop also gets Andy's line where he says, "This is the end." I didn't care for that because I didn't really care for the cop character at all, honestly. I thought the AI aspect of it and him having control over all of the productions and everything, I thought that that was a clever, fun way to give endless possibilities of what he can do, um, especially for future installments, or you know, just the creativity behind it was really neat because it is more believable than I would say a possessed doll, really. Because we're so much in the technology now that it basically controls everything we do in life, so that kind of is pretty impactful. It drastically separates the two Chucky dolls from Charles Lee Ray in 1988, and then, of course, the Buddy Good Guy doll, Buddy doll, Chucky. It separates them enough to where it's their own thing, so you can't really compare the two too much, which I know I have done that, obviously, in my review, but I mean, I gotta give some comparisons. I mean, um, so that's pretty much it for my review. Let me know what you think about the movie. I'd really be eager to hear what you had to say, and if you liked it or didn't like it. Um, and yeah, subscribe, comment, and if you're a cinematic addict, please, please subscribe. Thank you.